very warm welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show tonight, we will get you more details on Trump's 25% tariff imposition on India, with India's Commerce Minister saying that India will take all necessary steps to protect India's national interests. Also on Race to Power, Ukraine's parliament has now voted to restore the independence of two key anti-corruption agencies after days of nationwide demonstrations. All right, our top focus on Race to Power. Hours after announcing 25% tariffs on various sections on India, US President Donald Trump again took a dig at India and Russia, calling both the countries out for their trade ties while slamming their economies. In a post on his own social media platform Truth Social, Trump launched a stinging attack on India. He wrote, and I quote here, "I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together." Now, Trump has announced additional tariffs on India for its defense and energy imports from Russia. India has defended its purchases of Russian crude, stressing that its energy needs comes first. Russia currently supplies over 2 million barrels per day to India, making up nearly 43% of the country's total oil imports in June alone. As uncertainty looms in India's crude market, India's oil minister Hardeep Singh Puri made an attempt to downplay the concerns. He said, India has diversified its sourcing platform from 27 to over 40 countries and is capable to handle any disruptions. Apart from oil, India's trade relations with Russia run deep on defense. Russia accounts for 60% of India's foreign military imports, with trade surplus tilted in Russia's favor. Both the countries have carried out trade worth $68.7 billion, and that's in the financial year 2025. Moscow and New Delhi aim to step up the trade to $50 billion by this year itself. Additionally, Russian ambassador to India announced that Russia and India are also discussing the integration of payment systems. Well, on India-US trade front, US reports a $44.4 billion trade deficit with India. Experts point out that the picture changes dramatically when you include revenues from education, digital services, financial operations, royalties, and weapons. In fact, the US enjoys a $35 to $40 billion net surplus with India, according to GTRI data, that is. The 25% figure singles out India more severely than any other major trading partners. The new tariff is expected to impact India's $87 billion worth of goods exports to the US in 2024. The key affected sectors include pharmaceuticals, garments, gems and jewelry, and even petrochemicals. Trump has been pressing for greater access to India's agricultural and dairy markets. Indian negotiators have resisted that demand, citing risks to millions of farmers. On the other hand, US exports to India may now face retaliatory measures. India exports manufactured goods and energy like LNG and crude oil worth $42 billion. With India-Russia bonhomie triggering a sharp reaction from Washington, New Delhi now stares at a difficult negotiations with the United States of America, and this as Trump remains firm on his tariff deadline. There is little time left for turnaround at this point of time. And for more on this, we're now being joined by a special guest, R. Gopalan. He's the former Secretary of the Department of Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Welcome to Race to Power, Mr. Gopalan. First up, of course, how prepared is India, given the current circumstances, to face Trump's tariff?
This will be a small dip in our ability to export. For the time being, maybe about a couple of months or 2-3 months. But we are expanding our areas in which we will be exporting, for instance, to Latin America and other Far East, Middle East, and those other countries. And we have got a deal with the UK, and we'll be having a deal with EU, and our trade with other countries will continue. So in my view, there will be a small setback, slight setback for some months, but we will be in a position to bounce back, though the experts differ on what is the kind of time frame within which we can bounce back. Some people say that we will have a 0.2% shave of GDP this year, this financial fiscal year. But that's okay. I mean, in a manner of speaking, we will be in a position to overcome this if we have double our our ability to do more trade with other countries. We should be in a position to do better. But once again, this is not going to end here. The negotiations are going on. Maybe by September, October, we will be in a position to reach some kind of a consensus. Maybe, I mean, our red lines, which are, GM and agricultural crop, that will remain, because no government can afford to kind of take chances with this kind of, items. Dairy. These are all, millions of people who eke out their livelihood in a very, very subsistence way. This is very, very important for them for the livelihood. We cannot compensate. Government cannot compensate their income loss as a result. So I think we are taking a right stand. We are looking at this issue very, very dispassionately. We will continue to negotiate, and there will be some deal at the end. Maybe not the way Mr. Trump expects, maybe a little better than what we have offered now. So there will be, a negotiation is always a give and take. So somebody offers something, and then there is always a meeting point or a middle point at some point in time. That will emerge. So we will have a deal, but we'll have to wait and see how soon we'll be getting. My assumption is that by October, we should be in a position to get a deal.
Right, Mr. Gopalan, you speak of how we will have a deal and we will be able to bounce back. What, according to you, will perhaps be India's bargaining power and capacity? Because just a short while ago, India's Commerce Minister also said that all steps will be taken towards India's national interest.
You see, we have got we are, after all, part of Quad. In the strategic, we are a strategic partner. We have a lot of defense relationship deals going through with the USA. And there are a lot of Indian origin people in the USA who also exert some amount of influence. But ultimately, Trump decides in his own way. I don't think he is in a position to look at the strategic way in which the relationship between India and US has to go forward. He is looking at it transactionally. But after having these deals which he has, now he will certainly start looking into how we should do a deal with India, because he cannot leave out India. India is a big democratic nation. He cannot leave it out. So there will be, he will also, some sense will kind of, some way of, looking at things will emerge to climb down from the perch he's sitting on now. And I'm sure there will be a deal as we go along.
Right, Mr. Gopalan, this morning, Trump also sealed a deal with Pakistan. My question to you is, why has there been no deal between New Delhi and Washington so far? Why is India perhaps different from other economies which have sealed the deal so far with the US?
Okay, the difference is that we are a huge number of populations. We are just above the poverty line, just below the poverty line. Now, agriculture is a great, occupation for them. Maybe very inefficient kind of farming it is, but at least gives them the livelihood. And what they get, it cannot be swamped. Whatever price they are getting, it cannot be swamped by imports from other countries. One. Two, there are GM crops, which, corn and soya are GM crops which are grown in US. And their entry into India, we have not taken a view on the GM crops in our country, except cotton, the bollworm thing on which we have taken. Otherwise, we are very, very cautious on getting GM crops inside. And people have to, you have to educate the people. You have to run trials. You will have to see. This cannot take place in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. It takes place at least about 10, 15, 20 years. It takes all these trials to really, get into. So there are certain things which are real red lines. Look at dairy. If you want to have opening in dairy, farmers have one animal or two animals, they are able to supply milk to the milk unions and then to the federations, and they earn their money weekly or fortnightly. They earn their income. Now, how can a cheap, when milk products import can take the livelihood away from these farmers? No, we have got a strong set of very large number of people whom we have got to cater to, and we just cannot take our eyes off and then enter into a deal for the sake of entering into a deal. It's not possible.
I also want to ask you that the trade deficit narrative peddled by the United States of America, is that misleading and incomplete, given that India does compensate a lot in services sector?
Services also we have got a deficit, but then there are digital areas, there are defense areas, there are many other things where we have a much better, US has much better advantage. And there was a report that it says, if you sum up all these things, US is better off with about $45 billion a year. So that's a kind of, if you have to look at in toto, you cannot, look at only a few things like goods and services and then say that, we are deficit in this. The relationship is there on many things. There is a defense. There is a digital trade going on. There are so many things which are going on. So I don't think we can segregate these things and merely look at goods and services alone. It is just not on. This is not the way to look at a bilateral relationship.
My last question to you, Mr. Gopalan. Trump has this morning called Russia and India dead economies, and yesterday also said that he will be imposing a penalty on India for its ties with Russia. Do you think Trump's assessment of India right now, is that realistic?
Well, probably, Trump thought probably when he said that he is going to slap a 25% duty on India, probably he thought, we will make, calls to him and kind of request him to not to do that and offering some more opening into our market. Probably we did not do, because all these things are discussed calmly in a negotiating table. It cannot be by some kind of a threat. You cannot say that, I'm going to offer you this market. Then people will say that, this country is prone to threats. We can threaten them. We'll be in a position to get things done in this country. And we are not. So we have seen, subjugated by colonial powers who have taken away, plundered and then taken away a lot of wealth from this country. We have seen all this. I think we have got a lot of self-respect in dealing with things, and we also know that we are on the right track. We are arguing very logically. We are pointing out what our difficulties are, and a negotiating partner should also appreciate our difficulties. It cannot be that I am telling you that this is what you should do, and you should comply with, and that's not the way. That's not a negotiation.
That being said, Mr. Gopalan, how optimistic are you regarding any outcome from the 6th round of US-India trade talks, with the US delegation coming to India on August 25th?
We will move forward, certainly. You see, the fact that, even having imposed this 25%, still the delegations are continuing talks means that there is a willingness to negotiate and then go forward. So let us have this, 25% for 2-3 months. Ours is a big economy. We are not going to lose much in this, but we'll keep our head straight, and we will do negotiations in a manner which is good enough for the benefit of a lot of millions of people in this country. You just cannot, just because of one negotiation, we cannot barter, trade away our, very, very strong domestic interests. We cannot do that. But at the same time, what we should do, this is a lesson for us. We should see that, we improve our economy by any means. We have got to do that, and make it competitive. And we should see, because of this diversion of trade, there will be a lot of dumping taking place. We should see that, we are able to address that, and we should look at the opportunities in many other countries, and then see that, our exports go to countries or destinations which we had not, looked into, or we had not focused on increasing the quantity of trade with those people. I think we should diversify. And we should, see that, yes, USA is a good market for us, but look at USA is the thing. It's about, look at the total about goods and services, about against 900 odd billion exports and imports of goods and services, about 275 billion are with US, both exports and services. So to that extent, it is significant. I'm not saying it is not. It will take time to diversify, and we should start doing it. It's not, we need to be dependent on one single country for our exports so that our economy can grow.
Right. Right, Mr. Gopalan, thank you so much for joining us here on WION World is One with your insights.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And well, that was Mr. Gopalan, former Secretary to the Department of Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. But moving on to other stories, India's parliament witnessed an uproar after Trump's tariff announcement for India. Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal addressed the latest tariff setback, but the session in Upper House was met with constant chaos and sloganeering from opposition lawmakers.
Suo moto statement has it to complete the first tranche of the agreement by fall of 2025. The two sides finalize the detailed terms of reference to enter into negotiations of the BTA on 20.
Goyal addressed lawmakers in the Upper House amid the session. He assured that the Indian government is speaking to all stakeholders to secure India's national interests.
The Ministry of Commerce and Industry is engaged with all stakeholders, including exporters and industry, for taking feedback of their assessment of the situation. The government attaches the utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of our farmers, workers, entrepreneurs, exporters, MSMEs, and all sections of industry. We will take all necessary steps to secure and advance our national interests.
Following the Commerce Minister's address, several opposition leaders have demanded a detailed discussion on the 25% tariff and penalty announced by the US President.
जवाब नहीं दिया, एक वक्तव्य दिया है और वक्तव्य के बाद राज्यसभा की एक परिपाटी रही है, एक परंपरा रही है कि हम स्पष्टीकरण पूछा करते थे। आज उस तरह की किसी भी संभावना को मैं समझता हूं खत्म कर दिया गया। तो फिर इस आधे अधूरे वक्तव्य का, जिसमें से उससे ज्यादा संभवतः आप मीडिया के साथियों को पता है।
Trump announced tariffs on India despite the ongoing negotiations between both the countries. According to reports, a delegation from the US is expected to arrive in India for a fresh round of talks next month. In other news, support for Palestinian statehood is now gaining momentum, shaken by horrifying images of mass hunger in Gaza and growing public pressure across countries. More Western nations are joining the chorus to push forward a two-state solution. Canada has now officially announced its plans to recognize Palestine in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney said that the country will recognize the state of Palestine at the upcoming 80th session of the UN General Assembly. Canada had long stated it would only recognize a Palestinian state at the conclusion of peace talks with Israel. But Carney said that the reality on the ground, including starvation of citizens in Gaza, meant that the prospect of a Palestinian state was receding.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state.
Well, Canada becomes the third G7 nation to make this announcement, joining France and the United Kingdom in their support for Palestinian statehood. But it is the second G7 nation after France to back Palestine recognition without listing any conditions. Just a few days back, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer had said that London will recognize Palestine in September unless Israel ends the war in Gaza and fulfills a list of other conditions. France was the first G7 country to officially back Palestinian statehood. Several other European states, including Spain, Ireland and Norway, already recognized a Palestinian state last year. And pressure right now continues to mount on Israel as more of its staunch allies join the chorus. Israel has slammed Canada for its decision, calling it, I'm quoting here, distorted campaign of international pressure. Many Israeli citizens have also reacted against Carney's announcement, calling it a mistake. Well, Ukraine's parliament has voted to approve a bill which will return powers of two anti-corruption agencies. A few hours ago, Ukrainian lawmakers gave a sweeping mandate in favor of the bill, with 331 lawmakers voting in its favor. Only 9 abstained and nobody voted against the bill. Demonstrators watching a live stream of the vote celebrated outside Parliament.
За 331 позицію дати доручення.
Shortly after, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky released a video statement saying that he had signed the bill, which has now effectively become a law.
The law guarantees the absence of any external influences or any interference. It guarantees this through lie detector tests and regular checks for all those law enforcement officers who have access to state secrets or who have relatives in Russia. It is very important that the state listens to public opinion. It hears its citizens. Ukraine is a democracy, absolutely no doubt.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky presented the latest draft after pressure from nationwide demonstrations, which broke out last week. The previous bill triggered outrage, with thousands taking to the streets and accusing the government trying to curb the powers of anti-graft agencies. Last week's measure targeted two watchdogs, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. The previous controversial bill put both the agencies under the oversight of Ukraine's Prosecutor General. This prompted an outcry from Ukrainians, the European Union, and also international rights groups. The move by Zelensky raised fear that Ukraine's government could possibly meddle in probes and skirt scrutiny in the country. Demonstrators now rejoice after the war-torn country spiraled under domestic chaos amid its ongoing war with Russia. Fighting corruption within the country is a key requirement for Ukraine to realize its European dreams as it battles rage on the front lines with Russia. And some news from Myanmar now, where more than 4 years after military coup plunged the country into political chaos and civil war, the ruling junta has announced plans to hold national elections this December. The announcement was made through state television, with military chief Min Aung Hlaing said to chair a new 11-member election commission. He will continue to serve as both the interim president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But there is widespread skepticism about the move in Myanmar. The proposed election would be the first since the 2021 coup that saw the detention of Aung San Suu Kyi and other senior leaders of the democratically elected National League for Democracy in Myanmar. Since then, Myanmar has endured a relentless cycle of demonstrations, crackdowns, arrests, and a growing armed resistance. More than 2 million people have been displaced and thousands killed as the military faces increasing pressure from ethnic insurgent groups and pro-democracy forces. Most notably, the Burma People's Liberation Army, which is now a key player in the ongoing conflict. While the junta insists that the election in December will strengthen democracy, critics and international observers say that its likely impact is to legitimize the military rule amid deepening unrest and global isolation. ASEAN and Western nations have continued to call for meaningful dialogue. And with that, we slip into a very short break. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Emily Charlton, Andrea Sachs.
Our shooting begins for The Devil Wears Prada 2. Find out all about Anne Hathaway's upcoming project. Decode pop icon Taylor Swift's craze. And explore the South Asian trends taking over the world. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yowon.com.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Beyond.